Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So in today's tutorial we're going to go ahead and begin building the front end of our application. So in the last tutorials I've been building the API using FastAPI. So in this tutorial we'll begin React. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do first is to go ahead and actually make sure that we have React installed. So in this tutorial I'll have the assumption, I'll be making the assumption that you know the basics of React. So I won't be going depth into the basic concepts such as what's the components, what's the default exports, what's a context manager and stuff like that. I assume that you have the basics of React down. So I'm just going to go briefly and explain things briefly, not for beginners, but if you have a very basic beginner's knowledge in React, you'll be good, you'll just be fine. Okay, so first of all we need to have React installed. So I found this great article on freecodecamp.org, so you can go read this article, freecode.camp, and then you can search for how to install reactjs, create react-app. Okay, so this is the guide. First of all you need to install npm node package manager, and then from there we can install the React. Okay, the React you can run this command, and then this will actually to install that React app for you and create for you a React app. So let's get started. So I'm going to copy this, simply copy this, and then I'm going to go to my terminal. Okay, so before I do this, let me just show you. So I've rearranged my folder, and in my folder I have a folder called API where I moved in all the Python files, so that we can have the API folder and then the front end folder. And then I have some code snippets folder, which is just some code snippets that we'll be using in this video. You can find it on the GitHub link. And then we have the virtual environment, which is the Python virtual environment, which I have activated here. Okay, so I'm going to start my my Python API. So I'm going to change into API folder, and then you can see this is a content there. So I'm going to run uvcon. Make sure your virtual environment is activated. So uvcon app app, and then I'm going to now reload, and then I'm going to run that. So this is going to run the local host at port 8000. So if I go to /docs, and then we can see we have that Swagger UI here. So this is what you have been able to create in the last tutorial. So in this tutorial, let's go ahead and actually begin to create the front end. So I'm going to create a new terminal, and then I'm going to navigate to the base of our project. So in here I'm going to paste that command that I have just copied, and then change my app to, we're going to call it front, and then underscore end. Okay, and then press enter. So this is going to actually create install for us that create for us the React basic starter template, whatever you can call it. So it's going to take some time, so I'm going to pause the video, and then when this is done I'll resume the video. Okay guys, now you can see that I have my React already installed, so I've just resumed the video after this is done. So we need to change directory into front end, then we can run npm start, right, and then we can run the React application. So let's go ahead and do that. So change directory, front end, and then we can do npm start, and then this is going to start our React application on localhost at port 3000. And remember that we allow all cross-origin resource. We have added cross-origin resource to our server pointing to localhost at port 3000. So I explained in that tutorial that you will see why I did port 3000. Now this is the reason why I did port 3000, localhost at port 3000, because our React application by default React run on localhost at port 3000. So this is just the basic starter templates for React application. So now that we have that done, great, let's go ahead and actually stop this for now, and then we'll need to install a few more libraries. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this, clear the terminal, and then I'm going to go ahead and actually show you one more thing that we need to install. So we also need to install React router DOM for our navigations and stuff like that, so for routing. So I'm going to copy that and then paste that in here, and then run that command. This will also install for us the React router DOM. Once that is done, we also need to install the React Bootstrap, because we'll be using Bootstrap for this. So I'm going to copy that as well, and then after that is done, we can also use the React Bootstrap that's to do that. Okay, so now it has been installed, so I'm going to paste this here to install the React Bootstrap. This is just Bootstrap but having JSX tags instead of the normal HTML tags, so it's actually very simple. So you can just go ahead and actually read it. You can just search React Bootstrap, then you can read it here. It's actually very simple to use. Okay, it's actually running on GitHub. Okay, so now let's just check if that's done. Yeah, now that's done. So now that's done, we can go ahead and actually open Visual Studio Code or whatever code editor that you feel comfortable using. So I'm going to open Visual Studio Code, and then come back here. So now you can see this is the application right here. So you can see we have okay, let me just close. I was working on a project previously. Let me just close these tags out, close them. So yeah, so this is now our project, right? This is the project that you have just created, and you can see we have the source here, the source folder, and then the public. So we're going to go inside of the source, and then inside of the source, that's where we are going to you're going to keep our stuff that you're going to be using. So we first need to go into the app, and then here we can just remove all of this. We don't need it. Remove the whole thing, in fact. So if I even remove the div, remove everything, and then we can just return here a simple let me see. Okay, let me just remove that out. A div, sorry, a div tag, and then we can just say it didn't close. A div, close that off. Okay, so in here I'm just going to return h2 tag or something like that, and then let's just do a simple hello world, and then you can say hello world, just like that. And then I will just save this and then go and start again my React application. You can do npm start. Okay, npm start, and this will start for you the React application. Okay, so let's just wait for it to start up. Let me just go back to the browser, and then I can close this one previously. So now that we have done that, so we need we are in our index.js file. We need to import something, so we need to say import this bootstrap bootstrap /test /css /bootstrap bootstrap .css, just that. So this is going to import for us the bootstrap library that you're going to be using in our application. So now that you have done that, let's go back to our front end, and then let's try to check the front end if it's running. So let's try to refresh, and then we can see we have that hello world there, and it has the bootstrap formatting to it. So great. So now let's go back to our front end, our back end, up here. I'm just going to close index.js for now. So now that we have that done, we are going to create our navigation bar. So I'm going to go into source here. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it components. Okay, so I'm going to call it component, and in here we're going to add in all our components. So if you're familiar with the basics of React, you know that React application is made up of different components, right, that are laid out to interact with each other to create like the whole UI. So you're going to create a component called navbar.js. So this way we're going to keep our navigation bar. So we're going to import React from, this is going to be React. Okay, so we're going to import React from there, and then we also need to import a couple of things, and then this is going to come from our bootstrap React bootstrap library that we have just installed. So this are just like the normal bootstrap they are just as normal HTML but in bootstrap, but this has a JSX specific tags, okay, instead of the normal HTML. So we're going to call this navbar, and then you're going to import nav, and then you're going to import form, capital F, form, and then you're going to import form control. Make sure you watch out for that casing, Pascal casing, and then again you're going to import the badge. Okay, so all these are going to be imported from React bootstrap. Okay, React bootstrap. Now that we have that there, we also need to import link. Okay, so this is just to enable us to make links in our navigation. So instead of using the normal anchor tags, we're going to use this you're going to use this link tag instead of using the bootstrap the HTML anchor tag, right, that a tag. We will not use that. Instead we'll use this instead. Okay, so now that I have all of that imported, so let's go and actually create the navigation by itself. So I'm going to call it navbar, and then this is going to be an arrow function, and then you're simply going to return something here. Great. So what you're going to return is just HTML or navigation bar basically. So I'm going to go to my application, and I'm going to bring here a code snippet that I have. So it's just navbar, just this, copy it, and you can find this in the GitHub link. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it right here, and then I'm going to fix that formatting to make sure everything is fine. Okay, so bring that there, and then indent all of that. Yeah. So that's all we need to do. So this is going to deal with the links for us. So we can see this link tag that you have imported. You're going to use it to link it to add products, and then we'll see this link in the future, so don't worry about that. And you can see the navbar is this one, the nav, that one, the form control, the buttons, and then the badge. Okay, so now that we have that there, let's go ahead and actually do export this, export default, and then this is going to be nav bar, just like that. So we're going to export that. So we're going to go back to our application here, and then you're going to let me just remove this part out. You're going to import that. Also, we also don't need this, so we also need to say import React from React, just like that. And then we are going to also import navbar from, so this is just going to be components, and then this is going to be the navbar. Okay, just that. Great. So instead of using the hello world here, we're going to use the navbar, but we're going to be using React router done for our routing. So let's go ahead and actually fix those routes in place. So we instead of using the normal, like in React the routing is a bit different, so we need to use these tags in order for this routing thing to work. Okay, so let me just come up here. So we need to also import a couple of things from React router DOM. So we're going to say import, this is going to be, it's not the default export, so we need to say browse. We need to use the parentheses, I mean the curly braces, and then React router as we're going to import it as router. We're going to import link again. You're going to import route, so this is actually route, and then we also need to import switch. Okay, just like that. So all this we're going to import it from React router DOM. Great. So we're going to come in here, we're going to write the following. So we're going to say router, and then we are going to create a switch. Okay, so switch. Okay, inside of the switch we are going to add our navigation bar right here. So we're going to do nav, sorry, this is actually here, nav bar, which you have just imported. So we're going to have that nav bar right there. So great, that's all we need for now. Yeah, so that's all we need. So we're going to save this, and then let's go back to our front-end application. Now you can see we have that navigation bar right there. So you see this part where we are creating the product, right? I have in here products in stock, and then next to it I want to select products in stock, maybe 10 or 20 products and stuff like that. So I need to get all the list of all the products from our backend, and then you can see if I come this try out this, then I go to try out and execute, it's going to return to me a list of 2 products. So I want to write in here 2 products or 3 products according to the number of products that this route returns, right? So great, so let's come in here. So what you need to do is I'm going to create a context, right? So I'm going to use a context, and then we'll do with that context. So I'm going to just create the context right here in the source. So I'm going to create it here. I'm going to call it product context.js. So great, so in here we're going to import React from React. Great. And then what we need to do is to create a context. A context will enable us to do to work with our props, to work with the data from the API without having to pass a lot of props around all over the place. Okay, so now that we have React, we also need to import something from there. We also need to import use state and create context, just like that. And then you also need to import use effect. No, we're not going to use effect here. So yeah, so that's all we need. And then we're going to come create an export. So this is not the default export, so it's just an export. Const, let's call it product context, which is just the name of the file, equals to, and then this will just be a create context. That's all. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and actually make another export. So export const, and then this is going to be product provider, and then the product provider is going to be equals to an arrow function, and this arrow function takes in props. Okay, so I'm assuming that you're familiar with the basics of context manager, so I'm not going to go into depth in that. So const, we're going to create a list of an array of products, and then set products, and then this is just going to be use state, and then the use state you're going to pass in here an object, so data is going to be of type an array. Okay, great. So now that I have that there, let's go ahead and actually return something. So I'm going to return here, and now what I'm going to return, I'm simply going to return the product context dot provider, and then the provider is going to have a value, and then the value is going to be the object that we passed there. So it's going to have so it's going to be an array, rather an array of products and set products. That's all we need. So great. So now that we have, we can close off this tag, and then we can, yeah, so in here we're going to pass in props, the props that we took in dot children, just like that. So we need props dot children. So that's all we need to do for the context, for our context. So now for our context to work, we need to come back to app, and then we need to import it here. So we need to say import product. So this is going to be the product context, and then you're going to wrap we're going to wrap our other components around the product provider context, and then that will deal with prevent us from having to pass props around and all that. Okay, so this is actually not a default export, so we need to say product we need to say product provider, and then product provider. We need to import this from, I called it product context. Okay, great. So now that we have that, I'm going to just come in here, and I'm going to wrap all just above the navigation bar. I'm going to wrap this in product provider. Okay, and then I'm going to move the navigation bar in here, yeah, so that the navigation bar will be wrapped around that. So the reason why we wrap whatever we wrap inside of this tags, right, they'll have access to this state, which is going to be this state over here, which is going to be a state of all the products, and it will enable us to set products and then also retrieve products from just by using this. I hope you're familiar with the basics of context managers in React. I'm not going to go in depth about that. So great. So now that we have that wrapper there, let's go into our app here. So I'm going to import it from here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to import it, and then I'm going to get a list of all the products that we need, and then we can just count how many products we have in there. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to say import product context. Okay, you're going to use that context from, you're going to import this from this is string 2 back, and then product context, just that. So we're going to come up down here, and I'm going to create a constant called products, and then set products, and then this is going to be use context. Now we need to import use the context from here. So we need to come up here, and then we need to import use context, and then down here I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say use context, and then I'm going to put in the context that I want to use, which is a product context that we have just imported. Great. So we're going to this will enable us to have access to the state from here, okay, within our navigation bar, so we don't have to pass any props around. So great. So now that I have that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get a count of all the products. So you see, I'm going to say products in stock, and then the product number. So I'm going to get that here. So I'm going to say products, so I can access the products.data.length. So that's what you're going to do. So what this means is that the product, right, it has this state right here, it has this state, and then this state has data. So the product has this state, okay, this state that you have created here, and that state is just an object with an attribute data, which is going to be a list of all our products. So what I'm simply doing here is that I'm getting the products dot data, which is going to be this right here, which is going to be an array, and I'm getting the length of that array to know the count of all the products in there. So I'm going to save this. Now if I just go to the front end, there will be no change. So if I refresh, there will be no change, because right now the length is 0, because we have not added, we haven't gotten any products from our API yet. So now let's go ahead and actually make sure we are able to get the product from our API. So to get the product from our API, we need to create a product component. So another component, I'm going to call it products table.js. So the products table.js, what is going to allow us to do is that it's going to be like a table where we're going to list all our products. Okay, so you can think of it like a grid or something like that. So what we need to do for this to work, first of all, we need to get the context that deals with we need to create a table first. So I have another code snippet here, and I'm just going to bring it here. Okay, copy all of it, and then I'm going to bring it into our table here, and I'm going to paste it here. So I'm going to close the navigation bar for now, since we are done with the navigation bar, and I'm going to close this. We don't need that. Okay, so let me just cut all of that from now. So we're going to say import React from React. That's all we need. So and then you're going to say this is going to be const products. I call it products table, and then this is going to be an arrow function. So this is going to return something. Okay, what you're going to return here is we're simply going to return, make sure I also export be a default export. So export default, I'm going to export the products table. That's that. So I have that there. Okay, so now that I have that there, what we need to do now is going to create a div here, and I'm going to create a div tag div just like this, and I'm going to paste in that content of the table. Okay, great. So now we can see this is the table head, right? So if I go back to our page and then try to refresh this, we won't get anything back because we don't display this in here. So if I come here and then below the navigation bar, right, I can display it in there. So I can just go to products table just like that, and then I can close off that. So I need to import this from products table. So I need to say import products table from the components. Okay, so components folder, and then / products table. That's all. So if I go back to front end and then I try to refresh this, get an error. So import product table from there. So let's see where the error is. Import products table from components. So I don't see where the error is coming from. So let's try to read here. So has already been declared. Identify products table has already been declared. Okay, it has already been declared up here, so I think it does that automatically. So I just want to remove that part and make sure that we use the one that we have. Okay, let's just say table is not defined. Okay, so great. So the reason why table, let's go ahead and actually fix the reason why it's not defined is because we need to import a couple of things from React Bootstrap for this to work, since we're using their tags. So we need to say import table. This is actually coming from React Bootstrap. So I'm going to import table from React Bootstrap, and I'm going to save this, go back to my front end, and then you can see we have that table right there. So great. Now let's fix we'll fix the display of the table just in a second, but first let's fix the logic to get the data from the API and then pass it into our context. So our product context. So we're going to import products, I call it products context, I believe, from product context. Okay, so even here in React, we need to import use effect, so you can be able to make the. We also need to import use context because we want to be able to use this context right here. So now that we have that, I'm going to create a const. I'm going to call it product, and I'm going to create another one called set products, and then this is going to be const products. Sorry, this is not const, this is actually use context, and then you're going to pass in the product context right there. So great. So now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and actually begin to make a request to the server, get back the products, and then use the set products to set it to include those products in there. Okay, so I'm just going to come down and say use effect, and then this takes in an arrow function, And then what you're simply going to do is that you're going to fetch this from the API. So I'm going to fetch this. So I'm going to go back to our front end, and then we can see here, sorry, our API, you can see here we have this route. So I'm going to copy this route. So this route is the route that gets us all products. So I want to get all the products, so I'm going to pass in here, and then this will return a promise. So I want to do then, so I want to get the response. I want to get the response, and then with the response, what I want to do, I want to read this is going to be an arrow function. I'm going to just return response.json. That's all. And then this will also return a promise. So let's check where that is, and then I'm going to do a then, and then we can also use call it results. So the results, you guys can be an arrow function as well. And then what you're simply going to do, we're going to say set products, and then for set products, I'm going to say pass in here data, and then the data is going to be a list. So this is just going to be an array of results. You're going to spread the results data in there. So that's all we need to do for that. So I'm going to save this right now. So that's all we need to do, and then I can also just do a console.log and then results there. So we have that. So let's save this, and then let's try to go to the front end. So product contest was not a default. Okay, product contest, but product contest was not a default export. So why is it error coming from? So let's check it out. So it says that this is actually coming from tables. Product contest is not exported from. Okay, is it? I called it product context. Let me just check it here. Maybe I got this. So products. Okay, it's called product context, not products. So just remove that. So also remove it here. So it's actually product context, not products. Okay, so I'm going to refresh this. So you can see now it says that 2, because the number of products in there in our list is 2. So you can see 1, 2. So that's why it says the number of products in stock is 2. So now great, we have that done. Let's go ahead and actually fix the display of the UI, like to make the table look much more appealing. So what we need to do is we need to go down. We need to go to our app.js folder, file here, and then after the navigation bar, right? So after the nav component, I want to create another div here, and I want to give it a class name. This is just going to be a bootstrap class. So it's going to be a bootstrap class. So this is just going to be a bootstrap class, and this is going to be a row. So and then in there we're going to create another div. We're going to create another div, and then it's going to have a class. A class name is just going to be we're going to give it a couple of classes. We're going to do call sm-10 call dash xm dash 12 rm dash auto, and then ml dash auto. We're just going to give it some centering it, and then margin top is going to be 4, margin bottom is also going to be 4. Okay, so now that we have that there, we can go and actually close off that tag. So close it off. So now that we have that, I want to move in the products table into that div. Okay, so that's all I want to do for that. So I'm going to move in the products table into that div, and then we can save that, and then let's go to the front end, and you can see our table is now well set. We have set the products, and then you have do the styling of the products. So now let's go ahead and actually display some of the products in here. So what we need to do is we need to go back to the products table. So you can see here at the body of the table, right, it has nothing. So what we want to do, we want to use the map function to list out all the things that we want to be displaying in there. So what we need to do is we need to create another component called table product row. Okay, so we're going to create another component called product row, which is going to be the different rows within our table. Okay, or you can just call it product instead. So what we need to do, I'm just going to go to my components, and then I'm going to create a file here, call it products. Let's call it products row.js. So what you're going to do, we're going to import React as going to import React, from React, and then you're going to create a context, a const this create product row. This is just going to be an arrow function, and then this arrow function is going to return is going to return the following. So what is going to return is just going to return a table row and then the other component instead of the table row. So we're going to do a table row. So let me just undo that. So we're going to do a table row. Okay, so we're going to a table row and then table data. So just undo that. Table row and table data. Okay, so we need to pass in a couple of things in here. So we're going to pass in there according to this field. So you're going to pass in the ID, this and that. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, copy that. Okay, so I'm going to copy that for now, and then I'm going to move it in here. So let me just copy that and move it in here, and then replace it here. So let me just fix the indentation. Okay, so I'm going to copy all of this, select them, Control D to select all of that, and then this will just be table data. That's all. So we are going to have this table data right here. So what you're simply going to do in here, we're going to pass in the ID, the product name, and then stuff like that. So now we're going to get this through a props, right? So I'm going to use props here. So I'm going to ID name quantity underscore in underscore stock, and then I'm going to do quantity underscore sold, and then I'm going to do a unit underscore price. A unit price, we also need a revenue, and then we also need yeah, so that's all we need for now. In the next row I will add in some more props here. So I'm going to pass in here this is going to be the ID, and then this is going to be the product name. So pass this in here. So this will be product, this is just the name, sorry, not just name, from the props here. And then in here is going to be this is going to be quantity in stock, and then this is going to be quantity sold, quantity underscore sold. Okay, and then this one here is going to be unit underscore price, and then the next one here is going to be revenue. So revenue, and then this is going to be a bunch of actions. So for now I'm just going to leave it as a couple of buttons that you're going to create. So I'm just going to tap that in there, and I'm going to create a button, and then this button is just going to be I'll call it update, and then we can give it some bootstrap classes. So class name, this will just be as btn dash outline dash info btn dash sm, and then margin left is going to be 1, and then margin right is going to be 2. That's all we need to do. So I'm just going to copy and repeat this couple of buttons a couple of times. So just close this palette. So close the palette so that you guys can see properly. So I'm just going to copy this and repeat it a couple of times. So Control V and then Control V. Okay, so this is going to be this is going to be having margin. I'm going to remove this for now, remove this part out. Sorry, Control Z. Let me just remove these ones. Okay, it's just some styling issues. So I've already written the code prior to making the video so that we don't make any errors. So yeah, so this is gonna be btn info. This one is going to be success, and then this one is going to be danger for deleting. So this is going to be supplier, to get the supplier's info for the supplier, and then this is going to be delete. It's going to be for deleting. So this will be btn dash danger, just red button. So I'm going to save that for now. So great. So now that we have our product ready, so instead of our products right here, our products table, we want to display that the table body is going to have the product role. So we're going to use the map function for this. So each product, we're going to pass in the props for its ID and other components for that table, for that specific product. Okay, so what you're going to do is we need to pass in the data for each table. So I'm going to use the map. So I'm going to create in here. So I'm going to say products underscore data, and then the products is just this right here. Okay, this state that you have used from that product context. Okay, we're getting the data, which is just going to be the array of all the list of all the products, right? And then what we need to do, we need to do a map on it. So I want to do a map so that I can iterate through so those things. So I'm going to get product. This is going to be an arrow function. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to return for each product, we're going to return a product row. So we need to actually import this from here. So we need to import product row from products row. So it's actually called products row. Okay, so products row. Okay, so now that we have that, so each product is going to need an ID according to our props here. We need to pass in an ID, so we need to pass in the ID. So we're going to say ID is going to be product.id, which is going to be passed in from our backend. So the ID is going to be coming from the backend. So I'm going to get the ID, the name, and the other attributes. So all the other attributes I'm actually getting it from here. Okay, so don't be surprised where I'm getting this ID. So we have the ID. We're going to pass in the name, and then the name is going to be product dot name, and then this is just coming from the backend. So quantity underscore, so quantity in stock is just be product dot quantity underscore in underscore stock. Okay, so we're going to repeat this for quantity underscore sold. This is just going to be product dot quantity underscore sold, and then we're going to return the unit price for that product, which is going to be product dot unit underscore price, just like that. And then you also need to get the revenue, which is just going to be product dot revenue. Okay, great. So that's all we need. And then we also need to pass in the key to avoid that error that you usually get if you forgot the key. So we're just going to do product dot ID. So that's going to be the keys, because ID will be unique, right? So we're going to pass in the key. So that's all we need to do. So let's save this, and then let's go back to the front end to check what's up. So refresh this. I got an error, import row does not contain a default export. So yeah, I forgot that. So I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to do export default product row. Okay, I got it, product row. Okay, so I'm gonna come in here. I think I just change it in here instead. So this will be products, and then this should be products. Okay, so that naming is fixed. So let's refresh this. So now we can see it doesn't display any of those products for now. So let's see why. I just found out what the error was. So let me just show you what the error was. So you can see when I go in here to inspect, right, inspecting the elements, and then when I go into the table, right, so I have the table right here, and then you can see inside of the table body we don't have any objects, right, anything being passed in, because I used round brackets instead of sorry, I use curly braces instead of round brackets, parentheses like this. So it's actually a function, an arrow function. That's why we didn't get that to work. So let me save that, and then I can go back into the front end. Now we can see all our products are being displayed. So sorry for that error, it took me a while to find it out. It's just very simple thing, but I made an error right there. So you can see now we have displaying all our products. We get the products from our back end, and then we're just going to display it here. So in the next tutorial we'll actually write the functions to update, delete, and do all of this stuff. Okay, so guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial so far, give it a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and share this video with all of your friends who you think might find this tutorial helpful. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Keep safe.